Welcome back to College 101. Today we're going to be talking about textbooks. I've alluded to this in some earlier videos about what they're good for and how important they are for your schooling. Today we're going to get into all of that. First, if you have any tips about textbooks, any textbooks you've really enjoyed, any of them you've trashed, if you have any videos of you burning your textbooks in the semester, let us know in the comments. We'd love to see them. So textbooks, almost every single class is going to have a required textbook, but really that required should have some quotation marks around it. Some classes will have a reading assignment every single lecture, and they'll have a quiz based on that reading assignment, and those textbooks can be pretty essential. Some classes, the textbook is only there for homework assignments, and it can still be kind of essential to have that textbook, right? Other classes, it's purely there as a reference. Oh, you can go read that if you want to learn more. In some of these cases, the textbook really isn't required at all. In order to save you some time, some money, and some grief, I'm going to give you my approach to college textbooks, and hopefully it'll be good for you. The first thing I'm going to say is don't buy them before the start of the semester. This ensures that you're actually going to be taking the class, because sometimes last minute things change and you swap out of the class. Then if you have to sell it back, you're going to be sad at how little money you get from the bookstore. Second, it lets you find out if the textbook is actually necessary. And again, don't ask the professor. The professor put it on the syllabus because he thinks it's actually necessary. Talk to other students, talk to your teaching assistants, talk to upperclassmen to find out if you're really going to need that textbook and what they used it for. For some classes, just the lectures are enough, especially if your professor posts their lecture notes or lecture videos online. You can always go back and review those. The other thing, especially as an engineer, is I thought I was going to need a lot of my textbooks for my career. They have great reference material, concepts I'm going to use all the time. False. You're hardly ever going to really crack open a textbook. My second piece of advice is to buy used if possible. The moment you buy a brand new textbook and take it out of the plastic, it loses like 50% of its value, maybe more. Because of this, if you can buy it used, if it's an older edition, you can save yourself a lot of money. And just like in the first tip, you probably aren't going to want these long term, and so getting a nice brand new one that's going to last for a really long time, not really that important. To go along with buying used, you should buy from upperclassmen if you can and sell to lowerclassmen. The reason for this is that it cuts out a middleman. Let's say there's a textbook that normally costs $100 and someone buys it new. If they go to the used bookstore, the used bookstore is maybe going to give them $20 and then they're going to turn around and sell it for $40 or $50. However, let's say that you were to take that textbook and let's say you didn't even buy it new, you bought it used, so you got it for $50 and you turn around and you kept it in pretty decent condition, you can then sell it to that lower classman for $40 or $50. And basically you just paid $10 to rent that textbook. As a lower classman, try reaching out to upperclassmen and see if they're willing to sell their textbooks. Sometimes they're not. Unfortunately, I had to buy a lot of my textbooks because all these other engineers like me thought they were going to use their textbooks in their jobs. If you can convince them that they're not going to have to, it's a great source to look to. Keep an eye on like your classroom chat boards, talk to your teaching assistants, go to club activities, and meet up with upperclassmen there, and maybe you'll get lucky. Alright, break time. There was a college student who wanted to get their significant other a really meaningful gift for Valentine's Day. So they went to the print shop, and they printed a book of all the conversations that they had had since they started dating. When they gave it to their significant other, who was also a college student, they just said, "Oh great, another textbook," because it was a book of their texts. If you've enjoyed these videos so far, if you found them helpful, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you think that the jokes I come up with are just too long and convoluted, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and come let me know in every single video to just hang up my spurs when it comes to writing dumb puns and jokes. The last thing is think about what format you want to get your textbooks in. Sometimes digital formats are going to be cheaper because there's no printing costs, so you could buy a brand new textbook for $300 or $400, or get a digital one for $100 or $50 or $25. This also saves you a lot of time and weight. You don't have to worry about getting a locker on campus to keep them in, or carrying them back and forth in your backpack. You'll always have them on you if you've got your tablet or your laptop or even your phone. I personally wasn't a big fan of digital, but that's because I'm a pretty old-fashioned kind of person. I still like paper books. I have a whole stack of physical CDs. What can I say? The second thing I would do is consider renting. If this is a course, especially like a general ed course like Bio 100 or even something like Calc 1 or 2 that is related to your major, but very foundational, like calculus is related to chemical engineering, but we don't just sit and do calculus all day. If you rent that textbook, then you don't get the chance to sell it back, but it's a lot cheaper. If you're renting a textbook, it might cost you $80 to rent it, but then you're done with it. Whereas if you buy that textbook for $150, who knows if you're going to be able to find a buyer and how much they're willing to buy it from you for. Renting can be a little bit of a hassle because you've got to print out the shipping labels and send them back on time and make sure that you don't go overdue, because then you get hit with big fines. The last thing you can do, especially if this is a course where you're not going to need it very often, is you can see that the library has a textbook on what they call course reserve. Basically, these are textbooks that the library keeps, and at least at my university, you couldn't take them home. You could use them in the library. That way, students always could get access to it. If you just have to take pictures of homework problems, or maybe reference it every once in a while when you're studying for a test, this could be a great option, and it's 100% free. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode of College 101 here on the College Guide. Can't wait to see you next time.